I want to welcome to our program as a panelist for the first time, Captain Doug Truax, U.S. Army retired. The founder, Captain Truax, is of RestoreTheMilitary.com. Captain, welcome to the program, and it's an honor to have you, sir.
Hey, well, thanks so much for having me on.
What did you think of the people continuing to boo the president? I mean, they want to boo the president, that's fine, but he was swearing in young men and women into our military on the field on a special ceremony last night. What did you think about that, Captain?
Well, it just shows in our country we've got a group of people now that don't get the concept that they can have their political opinions, but if we don't have a strong military and if we don't support our military, we don't have a country for long. And so, you know, you have these folks that I guess it makes them feel good to do something like that, but they obviously probably have no family members that served or anything like that. You know, it just makes it, puts the onus back more on us to get stuff done and recognize that there's people in this country that are just going to be against us, and that's okay. You know, we know it's right.
No, Captain, it's not okay. It's not okay with me, Captain, because I respect all who serve this nation. And people like yourself, I'm in awe of. I just don't accept it, and I can't accept it, Captain. I'm sorry. And I don't know if you saw this or maybe you heard about it, but a World War II British Army vet was on a morning show in the UK last week, and he was giving his opinion on the celebration of what they call Remembrance Day. We call it Veterans Day, obviously. Listen to what this 100-year-old British Army vet said.
What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye those rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what?
What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye those rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though?
What we fought for, was our freedom. We find that even now it's darn sight worse than what it was when I fought for it.
Captain, there are veterans in our country that feel exactly the same way as this veteran of the British Army from World War II.
Yes, that's right. And that's exactly why we started Restore the Military. Because, you know, my point a minute ago, too, was that, hey, we're not going to put up with it. We're just going to beat these guys politically and legislatively and codify all the right stuff. And so, you know, it's horrible to listen to that. And I think that there's a lot of people out there, I know a lot of people that did very difficult things for our country, and they look at it now and say, well, gosh, you know, we're getting weaker and weaker as we've gone along here, and then we also need to get the people out that made it weak. And so we've got 110 generals and admirals up on the website. About a third of them have already been asked to resign or forced out. So we got a ways to go. But these are all the folks that were pushing the DEI stuff.
Right.
And so that's the root of it right now. And Hegseth is right, and Trump is right. These guys have got to go, and they got some work to do still. And we're going to keep that up there and keep pushing it, because there's a lot of people that did a lot of things for this country that they don't want to hear about some corporatized general who's on his way to get a job at Raytheon. So he's going to show these guys at the board of Raytheon how corporate he is by putting a DEI everywhere. Well, there's a price to pay. Those guys have got to go, and we got to have a different way going forward. And so that's what we're pushing on every day.
We're very fortunate to have with us today Captain Doug Truax, U.S. Army retired, founder of RestoreTheMilitary.com. So, Captain, let me ask you, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, has been on the job now 8 months, maybe a little less. What are your thoughts? What do you think so far of Secretary Hegseth's work to de-woke our military?
Yeah, I think it's been great to this point. I think that he caught a lot of criticism for bringing everybody into one room and giving them the speech, which I thought was great, because everybody that's ever been in command in the military has had a moment where you get all your people together And it's good for them to hear you say certain things because they know going forward now what the attitude needs to be, what the culture should be, how things have changed. And he did all that.
Well, that's leadership. Isn't that leadership,
right.
Captain? That's what leadership's all about, isn't it?
Well, that's right. Well, we've had, you can look at Lloyd Austin and Miller.
Oh. Well, you just said about people work for Raytheon. Isn't that where he was going back to?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. These guys, I think it all started under Clinton, got really bad under Obama. Trump didn't have much time to fix anything because he was under fire, and then it just went to hell under Biden.
Right.
And so people don't get the concept. We're talking about people booing last night. You don't have a strong military, you're not going to have a country for long, one way or the other. People, we got the oceans, and okay, the Chinese are after us every day, all day, and we got to pay attention to these things. And if our military gets too weak, we're in big trouble. So I think the Hexet's done a great job. I think that there's a long way to go. I went to West Point. I can't believe that Gilland and Reeves are still in charge at West Point after what they did. I think we've missed a big opportunity. I do also think, and this is my first time saying this stuff publicly, General Braga, who they just confirmed for 4-star Special Forces Command. He's got a wonderful resume, combat, but he is the worst in the whole military in terms of wokeness. I mean, he's got transgender people on his staff, and he's just acting like everything's okay. And his Special Forces bros, they got around him and got it through. That's one Hexet shouldn't have caved, because that's case in point of somebody that thinks that he can just do whatever he wants and instill in the military this mindset that, we're okay with, these cross-dressers and stuff. I mean, the lethality and the morality of that piece alone, we should not even be discussing it, and let alone let these guys rise up even further if they've been doing it before. So a lot of work to be done still. A lot of work to be done.
Captain, this is an interactive program. We have listeners who volunteer to be producers for the show, and they listen to the show, they monitor it, and then they upload. They look through my show notes, my script for the day, and they upload questions for our panelists. And I have one for you right now. I'd like to read it to you if that's okay, Captain.
Sure.
Would you support, this comes from our producer, Bob, would you support some mandatory military service for every U.S. citizen following the example of other countries, including Israel, so that every citizen has equity in supporting veterans? I know the way I feel about it, Captain. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've all seen examples of a lot of kids that, it did them a lot of good to go and do that. And I think especially in our culture today, there's a waywardness now at times, my son's going to go travel across Europe for a year. It's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe you should go in the military and you could still have a lot of reserve and guard, and there's a lot of potential in different areas. But I mean, if you don't have, it goes to what we were talking about last night with people booing. I mean, it goes to a lack of connection to the military. I think a lot of people in the Southeast are very connected to it because that's where a lot of the bases and posts are and everything, Texas and all that, in certain parts of California where there's some real conservatives. But we've lost sight of that for sure, and I think we need to get back there in some form or fashion. So this is what we need to be talking about, not how do we get DEI in the military, which is reversed, and we have to codify this stuff going forward and take it back. And we're actually working on the National Defense Authorization Act currently, and also the one next year, which is, that's the place where you get Congress to codify what you want from these standards and going straight to merit. There shouldn't even be boxes of what your race is on certain things in the military. It doesn't even matter, right? I mean, we all have to go down range together, and those of us that go down range, and we're advocating for this too. Some people that go down range and face battle need to get paid more, as opposed to the guy who doesn't. And that's perfectly legit, because the amount of merit that you have to aspire to be able to go down range, it's, on a different level. So those are the types of things. And we're also working on combat exclusion. We shouldn't have women in combat. I mean, I don't want to live in a country.
Well, Hexet has said that publicly for a long time. Even when he was on Fox News, he said that, right?
Yeah, sort of. What he's saying is we're going to raise the bar on physical fitness standards to a very high level. But what happens is that some people say, well, if a woman can do it, she should be able to go. And I say, no, we shouldn't be a country that puts women in combat. That's full stop, period. And so I think he thinks like I think, but I think politically he says that so that it's like, well, if there's a case where somebody, can do it. But I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, like, we don't draft our women. I know there's some senators that still talk like that. Well, maybe we should put women in the selective service. No, I don't want my granddaughter being drafted. I don't want my granddaughter going to combat. look, we have plenty of people in this country. We need to buckle down and make sure people understand what it means to be in the military. And now that we're re-warriorizing the military, the right people are showing up to join it. In particular, a lot of these guys now, these younger men that are like, all right, good. This is what I would go and do a lot of difficult things for in service of my country. And so they're joining now a lot faster than they would have before. But that's because we're re-warriorizing everything.
Brigadier General Blaine Holt, who is a Newsmax contributor. You may have seen General Holt on Newsmax. He's a frequent contributor to this program as well. And we've become friends. And I talked to him a few months ago about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And he told me that he and many in the military are still having difficulty accepting the way we pulled out of Afghanistan. I suppose Vietnam veterans feel the same way about what happened in Saigon back in 1975. And I have since started to put our military, past, present, and future, in my prayers every night, Captain, to pray for them that they will be able to get through these difficulties that they have seen when the country really hasn't, and the government hasn't stood up. Our leaders, quote unquote, haven't stood up for them. And perhaps that's something as a nation we need to do, is pray for our military as well.
Absolutely. Difficult job. Separated from your family. Have to do dangerous things that only you can do because other people back home don't want to do them.
Right.
Which, okay, that's fine. But support the people that do. I couldn't agree with you more on the Afghanistan thing. I think there needs to be a total reckoning around those 2 decades where we just had the industrial military complex making a boatload of money.
Yep.
And these generals, it looks to me like they were lying to justify the ongoing presence of troops over there. And, we're going to pull this off any day now. And the Afghans are going to stand up and take charge of their own country.
Right.
And in a weekend, it all went down.
Yep.
And to your point about, I remember watching that, and I was thinking about a lot of the guys that I knew that ended up with bad PTSD because, frankly, they put them out in the middle of nowhere with not much of a mission, and Obama's just like, traipsing around, acting like he knows what he's doing. And those guys end up in bad situations, doing bad things. Okay, maybe shouldn't have done some of the things they did, but they've got PTSD now. And nobody's going back and reckoning on this whole thing. Like, why were we even there? And if they were so sure that the Afghanis were going to take over and be fine, in 1 weekend, it's just done. That is just heartbreaking for all the guys that served. And just, you see the guys, the Wounded Warriors commercials and all those guys that lost limbs and everything else. I mean, it's just, and they lost their lives. And what do we have to show for it? I'm 55. It's probably like my worst day with me and my country in my lifetime.
And that's and that is what I heard from General Holt that he told me. And I've been praying for our service members since then.
Yeah, good for you.
Tomorrow is Veterans Day. How can we best honor our vets at a time when patriotism itself, Captain, is under attack?
Well, it's time for us patriots to step up and demonstrate it even more. And, our take on it, and I got an op-ed coming out tomorrow on this, is it's good to say thank you for your service, but there's also this side of it where you have to be supportive of, guys like me and stuff like we're doing, Restore the Military and all these, Hexeth and all these guys, where it's basically taking a stand and saying, no, we have gone the wrong direction. We got to go back the other way, because that is... you listen to that old guy in England. I mean, it's just terrible. And there's veterans out there today in our own country that look at things and go, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And so if you didn't serve, fine. But if you want to support those who did serve, it's perfectly okay to step up and say, you know what? What's been going on in the military for decades is wrong. I've talked to military guys. I've listened to things. I've done my reading. We need to go a different direction. I think civilians that never served are just very hesitant to say anything that might be construed as like negative towards our military, which that's a blessing in one way. But the downside of it is we don't have enough of our people, like, what you're saying, go pray for them. And when God tells you to go do something to help them, go do it. Go call your congressman, call your senators, call the White House, say, hey, we need to keep working on this, because we need the American people to back us, not just the veterans, because there's not a lot of us, in general. So you just definitely have to have more of a groundswell around that. So that's what we're working on inside. I'm doing an op-ed on it, and I just.
Where can we see that op-ed, Captain? Where will we be able to read that op-ed tomorrow?
It's tomorrow on Real Clear Politics.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Real Clear Politics. Okay, .com. Captain, tell us about RestoreTheMilitary.com. What do we need to know, and what can we do to help?
If you can keep track of everybody that's getting fired, which is a lot of fun, actually, because when we put that up there, nothing had happened yet. And then Hegseth was digging in, and I know him and his guys see our stuff too. So we're the guys that are, letting it be known that here's what they did. Here's what they said in speeches. Here's what they did on their posts. Here's how these generals and admirals were not just following orders to do woke things, because that can happen.
Right.
Here's the memorandum. Okay, I got to follow the stupid memorandum, and then I'm going to throw it in the trash and pretend like that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the folks that embrace the ideology, which is then destructive to
that's worse,
the whole
right?
Culture, right? It's like you're
worse.
just hurting lethality and everything. So they're the ones, and so they're on there. So if your listeners go on there and they see people, they should just start sending it around to their friends. Especially like what we've been doing is texting it out across the military. So we just want to make sure that everybody in the military knows that, like, if you're a captain out there and you've got some crazy, dumb colonel above you that's still pushing on this stuff, well, you can't necessarily call Hegseth, but you can definitely, know that we're going to catch this and we're going to put his stuff on the website, and then the Pentagon will see it. And so then, that's what's going on. And it also sends a message across the whole military that outsiders are watching and keeping up with this stuff and letting everybody know. So, hey, we take donations. It's all through Restoration of America, which is the larger group that we run. Restore the Military is just a portion of it. We do all kinds of life and voter integrity
Is it
stuff.
restorationofamerica.org, Captain?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yes, .com too. We have all.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You got it. So, that's what they could do. Absolutely.
Captain Doug Truax, U.S. Army retired. God bless you for your service to our nation. Captain, thank you for coming on. Again, the founder of RestoreTheMilitary.com. Captain, it's certainly worthwhile work. We need to restore our military if we're going to restore our security. There can be
That's right. That's right.
There can be no other option for this nation. Thank you so much, Captain. We're honored by your presence today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.